We understand the situation now and we can use the S.E.L.E.C.T model to establish our plan. So we'll start with safety then. Proportionate, underpinned with joint understanding of risk. The first thing we need to consider, is there a risk to responders and the animal? And we need to think about what might happen. Now, any dog that's in distress, even though it's a companion animal and relatively low risk on the scale, will potentially pose a risk to us if we try and intervene with it. If it's anxious, if it's injured, if it's disorientated, if we're entering its environment, then we will expect an animal to defend itself or defend its space. So be prepared for an animal, even though you're there to help it, to potentially not recognise your help and to bite you. So making sure that we've got the right PPE on. The risk to the animal, if we don't do anything, is that it's going to die. So, you know, that's ultimately what we're there to stop. And so we can't kind of leave it in that environment unless the risk is so high that it would be negligent to let it out. But in this case, it's a companion animal and therefore it's a relatively low risk. Environment. How does the environment impact here? Well, clearly the immediate environment that this animal is in, i.e. the car, is very, very hot and is the main source of the problem. So first of all, can we change the immediate environment to alleviate that problem? And it's possible that by creating a vent, we could actually allow some natural ventilation, or even using fans to provide forced ventilation, we could actually alleviate the environmental factors within that car. Then we think about the wider environment. You know, we've got a busy city centre car park, we've got a crowd there, they're agitated, they want something done. How are they going to react when the owner comes back? Are we going to have people putting lots of pressure on us to do something? You know, we need to think about the command and control aspects of this situation and ensure that we've predicted what might happen and made sure that we've preempted anything that might happen as a result of the behaviour of the people around us. Also need to think about, is that location secure? You know, if the dog does come out and for some reason it does get away, is it then going to, you know, run under a car? Is there a main road next to us? You know, all of those things have got to be thought about. We're not just going to race in there and you know, extract it without having a plan for what happens next. So, you know, just think about what's around you, how it's going to be a problem, but also how it may support you. The leadership here then, so we've been called to effect rescue, and the rescue and the pre-veterinary immediate care lies with the Fire and Rescue Service. We are the organisation with jurisdiction in that moment. We may require the police to locate the owner, and also we may require the police to investigate a breach of the animal welfare legislation. So why was that animal left in that hot car? Suffering has happened, so very definitely the police would need to be part of a conversation going forward. So think about equipment. Are we equipped to handle this incident? Well, clearly any fire engine will have the means to break into a car. We will have water for cooling. We may have to improvise a lead or some form of restraint for the animal. And I think we've got everything that we need to carry out that initial pre-veterinary intervention. The thing that will be a challenge potentially is the transportation of that animal to definitive veterinary care. You know, hopefully we can establish the owner's whereabouts by then, and that responsibility will fall to them. But if they're not found, then how do we get that animal to the vet? And that will be an important tactical decision, and one that needs to be made very quickly. Casualty-centred rescue, of course, so we're going to think about what we can do. This is no different to any human medical intervention. We're going to make sure we remove them from the source of the heat. We're going to provide shade, we're going to cool them, oxygen therapy or resuscitation protocols if necessary. And as I say, we could consider taking them to a cooler environment, such as an air-conditioned shop foyer. We're going to ensure that we've talked to, at least, and arranged a species-specific vet to treat the animal after we've brought it out of that environment. We're going to try and keep the scene really quiet, attempt to locate the owner, and then, say, arrange transport to the definitive veterinary care as soon as feasible. Techniques wise, well, we're going to effect entry, we're going to cause minimum damage, we're going to ensure that we've got control measures for the dog. So it may be, if you carry a rigid lead, that would be a preferred option to start with until we understood the demeanour of the animal. But then to use just normal slip leads. We would need to consider if we were going to muzzle the animal. It's always good practice to muzzle an animal that you are not familiar with, particularly in those stressful situations. The use of trauma cards is really applicable here, and these are in 2026 are in progress. We are working with the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons to create trauma cards so that you can basically take all your medical knowledge and then apply that to the companion animal scenario. And then how do we transport the animal? Ideally, the animal will be transported in some form of containment, like a cage. So have a look at what's in the car, see if there's anything that can be used, but certainly we need to make sure that the animal is travelling in an appropriate manner to the veterinary care facility.